The quantum communication arrays of the celestial concordance hummed with a subtle vibration, casting a soft edge or glow across the massive observation deck. Admiral Zara traced her slender appendages across the holographic display, her multiple eyes narrowing as she studied the latest reconnaissance data from the outer rim sectors. Earth, a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the galactic map. The preliminary reports suggested nothing extraordinary. A young civilization barely beginning to understand the rudiments of interstellar technology. Primitive communication networks, scattered satellite systems, fragmented political structures. Every indicator pointed to a species millennia away from serious galactic consideration. Chief Analyst Vorkin approached, his translucent datapad flickering with complex algorithmic projections. "Preliminary threat assessment complete," he announced, his voice a precise mechanical translation. "Civilization classification, Tier 5. Technological development, minimal. Potential for resistance, negligible." Admiral Zora allowed herself a small gesture of dismissal. Countless civilizations had been cataloged and integrated into the celestial concordance over generations. This would be no different. A standard pacification protocol would bring this small planet into the fold, adding another minor system to their vast interstellar network. What the concordance did not understand was the nature of human potential. The data streams continued to flow, each packet of information revealing fragments of a complex and unpredictable civilization. Satellites designed for communication and observation shared space with experimental research platforms. Rudimentary space exploration vehicles indicated a species with an impossible combination of technological limitation and boundless curiosity. Deep within the most classified sections of the Concordance archives, a series of anomalous data points began to accumulate. Minor incidents that seemed insignificant when viewed in isolation. Technological adaptations that defied predictive models. Communication patterns that rejected standard linguistic analysis, problem-solving approaches that seemed to emerge from pure chaos. On Earth, most humans remained blissfully unaware of the approaching galactic assessment. In research laboratories, universities, and technology centers across the planet, individuals pursued innovations with a remarkable blend of creativity and determination. A quantum physics researcher in Tokyo worked on theoretical particle acceleration. An engineering team in Silicon Valley developed adaptive neural networks. A small startup in Cape Town explored sustainable energy solutions that challenged existing technological paradigms. The Concordance's predictive algorithms could not comprehend the human capacity for unexpected innovation. Vorkin continued his presentation, projecting holographic representations of Earth's technological infrastructure. Communication networks are decentralized and chaotic, he noted. Military technologies appear inconsistent. Cultural systems demonstrate significant internal contradictions. Admiral Zara listened, her experienced mind already mapping potential integration strategies. Centuries of galactic administration had taught her that every civilization followed certain predictable patterns of development and eventual assimilation. But the data from Earth continued to defy those patterns. Buried within mundane communication streams, the Concordance's analysis systems detected something extraordinary. Humans appeared to communicate through multiple layers of meaning. A single message could contain literal information, emotional subtext, cultural references, and complex humor, all simultaneously. Traditional translation matrices struggle to decode these intricate communication patterns. Recommend standard pacification protocol, Vorkin concluded. Estimated time of complete planetary integration, approximately 3 standard galactic cycles. Admiral Zara nodded, her decision seemingly routine. Another minor civilization would soon become part of the greater galactic community. She could not have known that this particular mission would challenge everything the celestial concordance understood about technological development, cultural adaptation, and the potential of emerging civilizations. In the vast darkness between stars, the first tendrils of an encounter that would reshape galactic understanding were already beginning to take shape. Humanity's greatest strength, its capacity for unexpected innovation, remained hidden, waiting to be discovered. The Celestial Concordance was about to learn that some threats cannot be measured by traditional technological metrics. Some civilizations cannot be understood through standard analytical frameworks, and some species are defined not by their current capabilities, but by their infinite potential for adaptation and surprise. The bridge of the Celestial Concordance flagship, Eternal Horizon, vibrated with a low, anticipatory hum. Massive view screens displayed the Sol system in intricate detail, each planetary body mapped and analyzed with precision that bordered on obsessive. Captain Rylan watched the final approach protocols with practiced calm, confident in the overwhelming technological superiority of the Concordance fleet. Standard first contact procedures dictated a formal communication sequence. A carefully modulated transmission would be sent, outlining the Concordance's terms of peaceful integration. Centuries of galactic expansion had refined this process into a near-perfect diplomatic ballet. Nothing could have prepared them for humanity's response. The first indication that something was different came when the communication arrays began to process the incoming human transmission. What should have been a straightforward diplomatic exchange quickly devolved into something entirely unprecedented. Multiple communication channels erupted simultaneously, flooding the ship's systems with a bewildering array of content. Senior communication specialist Meltok's tentacle-like appendages moved frantically across the translation interfaces. Analyzing primary communication stream, he announced, his voice growing increasingly confused. Interpretation matrices are struggling. The main view screen flickered, revealing a rapid-fire sequence of images that defied logical categorization. A short video clip showed a small feline creature inexplicably falling off a piece of furniture. Immediately following was a series of rapidly changing images accompanied by what seemed to be rhythmic audio patterns. Another segment featured humans engaging in what appeared to be deliberately nonsensical behavior. Are they attempting some form of complex diplomatic code? Meltok wondered aloud, his translation algorithms working overtime. Captain Rylan leaned forward, mandibles clicking with growing irritation. Clarify the primary communication intent, he demanded. The ship's most advanced linguistic processors worked frantically. Each attempt to decode the human transmission revealed layers of meaning that seemed to actively resist standard interpretation. What appeared to be a serious communication channel was, in fact, a complex tapestry of cultural references, inside jokes, and seemingly random content. A junior communication analyst hesitantly spoke up. "Sir, it appears the humans are responding with what their internal networks call memes." The word seemed to cause physical discomfort to the translation systems. The Concordance had encountered thousands of civilizations. They had developed communication protocols for species that communicated through chemical exchanges, electromagnetic pulses, and even pure mathematical sequences. But this was something entirely new. Another transmission burst through. This one featured what appeared to be a human making an exaggerated facial expression, accompanied by rapidly changing text that seemed to contradict the visual information. The ship's humor recognition algorithms, typically used to detect potential diplomatic nuance, short-circuited spectacularly. "They cannot be serious," Captain Rylan muttered, mandibles clicking in frustration. But they were serious, in their own uniquely human way. The communication barrage continued. News broadcasts mixed with entertainment clips. Scientific presentations were interspersed with comedy routines. Serious political discussions appeared alongside videos of humans performing deliberately absurd activities. Each transmission seemed designed to maximize confusion while simultaneously communicating something deeper. Meltok's translation systems began to generate increasingly bizarre interpretive reports. Potential meanings include formal diplomatic greeting, elaborate joke, psychological warfare, or complex cultural exchange ritual. He paused, possibly all simultaneously. On Earth, the teams responsible for this initial contact were working with a combination of serious diplomatic strategy and barely contained excitement. They understood something the Concordants did not, that communication is more than just the transmission of information. It's an art form, a cultural expression, a way of understanding and challenging expectations. The Concordance fleet hung in space, surrounded by this tsunami of incomprehensible human communication. Their most advanced systems, designed to analyze and interpret countless alien languages and communication methods, found themselves completely overwhelmed. Captain Raylan made a decision that would be discussed in Concordance diplomatic circles for generations. "Continue observation," he ordered. "And someone get me a complete linguistic and cultural analysis team." Little did they know, humanity was just getting started. The first contact that the celestial concordance had anticipated would be a simple, straightforward affair had become something else entirely. A complex, confusing, and utterly unpredictable dance of communication that challenged everything they thought they knew about interstellar diplomacy. The first actual military engagement began with what the Concordance expected to be a routine pacification maneuver. Their most advanced battlecruiser, the Eternal Horizon, positioned itself with mathematical precision, preparing to demonstrate the overwhelming technological superiority that had subjugated countless civilizations. Deep within a makeshift mission control center in Colorado, a team of human engineers and military strategists watched the approaching alien fleet with a mixture of scientific curiosity and unexpected calm. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of the Adaptive Technologies Research Division, adjusted her worn computer tablet, her fingers dancing across multiple screens. "They're predictable," she muttered to her team. "Completely and utterly predictable." The Concordance vessels moved with a precision that spoke of centuries of refined military doctrine. Perfectly synchronized attack formations, mathematically calculated approach vectors, defensive systems that had overwhelmed countless emerging civilizations. Their technology represented the pinnacle of galactic military engineering, or so they believed. What happened next would become a legendary moment in the emerging history of human galactic interactions. The human research vessel, a craft that looked more like a cobbled-together experimental platform than a military ship, began to move in a pattern that defied every known principle of space navigation. Its systems seemed to adapt in real time, changing configuration faster than the Concordance's tracking systems could process. Chief Tactical Officer Zara of the Eternal Horizon watched in growing confusion as the human vessel performed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible. Multiple sensor arrays struggled to maintain a consistent lock. The ship's trajectory changed not in smooth, predictable arcs, but in sudden, seemingly random shifts that made traditional targeting impossible. "Impossible," Zara whispered, her multiple eyes focusing intensely on the display. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. The ship was running an experimental adaptive algorithm, developed by a team of researchers who had backgrounds in everything from quantum physics to video game design. Each system was designed to learn and modify itself in real time, drawing from a massive database of potential responses. A junior Concordance tactical analyst reported the impossible. Their defensive systems are not following any known technological protocol. It's as if the entire ship is one massive, adaptive neural network. The human vessel's primary defense was its unpredictability. Where traditional military ships had rigid, predetermined response patterns, this craft seemed to generate its defensive strategy moment by moment. A weapon system that would have been devastating against a standard ship found itself redirected by sudden, unexpected ship movements. More incredibly, the human vessel began to actively modify its own systems during the engagement. Experimental communication arrays were reconfigured into makeshift defensive platforms. Consumer-grade electronics were integrated into complex defensive networks. It was technological improvisation taken to an extreme that the Concordance had never encountered. They're treating a potential destruction scenario like a complex problem-solving exercise, one of Dr. Rodriguez's team members observed. The Eternal Horizon's first significant attack run failed spectacularly. A precision energy weapon, capable of rendering most known ship systems inoperable, was somehow absorbed and partially redirected by the human vessel. The ship's systems seemed to learn from each incoming attack, rapidly developing countermeasures that became more sophisticated with each passing moment. Zara's communication with Fleet Command became increasingly desperate. The human vessel is not following any known engagement protocol. Its technological response patterns are completely unpredictable. What the Concordants did not understand was the fundamental nature of human innovation. This was not just a ship. It was a living system of constant adaptation, drawing from multiple disciplines, created by a species that saw technological challenges as opportunities for creative problem-solving. A massive energy pulse that should have completely disabled the human vessel instead found itself partially absorbed. Its energy redirected in ways that the Concordance's most advanced tactical systems could not comprehend. The ship's defensive capabilities seemed to emerge from a combination of cutting-edge research, unconventional thinking, and a willingness to try solutions that traditional military doctrine would never consider. As the engagement continued, it became clear that the human vessel was doing more than just defending itself. It was learning, studying, adapting. Each Concordance attack provided more data, more opportunities for innovative response. Dr. Rodriguez watched the engagement with a mix of professional pride and scientific excitement. This, she told her team, is why humanity will never be just another species in the galaxy. The battle was far from over. But in those first crucial moments, humanity had demonstrated something far more powerful than technological superiority. They had shown a capacity for innovation that defied all conventional understanding. The Concordance Communication Hub was designed to be the most advanced information processing center in known galactic history. Billions of data streams could be analyzed simultaneously, with linguistic algorithms capable of translating and interpreting communication from thousands of different species. Its quantum processing networks had never encountered a challenge they could not decode. Until humanity. Director Krulnax watched in growing bewilderment as the human communication assault continued to overwhelm their most sophisticated systems. What had begun as a simple first contact scenario had transformed into a complex, multi-layered communication nightmare that defied all known protocols. In a small, unremarkable office in San Francisco, a team of internet specialists, linguists, and cultural experts worked with a combination of serious intent and barely contained excitement. They understood something fundamental about human communication that the Concordance could not comprehend. Information is more than just data. It's a living, breathing, constantly evolving system of meaning. Deploy the meme team, Sarah Chen, lead communication strategist, announced with a level of seriousness that would have seemed comical in any other context. The Concordance's communication arrays began to receive transmissions that completely shattered their understanding of interstellar communication. Each message was a complex puzzle, layered with multiple levels of meaning. A single image could contain historical references, cultural in-jokes, emotional subtext, and complex social commentary, all simultaneously. Their translation matrices began to generate reports that seemed more like philosophical treatises than straightforward communications. Potential meaning includes diplomatic greeting, elaborate joke, profound social critique, and multiple simultaneous emotional states, one report read. Krulnax's communication specialists worked frantically. Each time they believed they had decoded a human transmission, new layers of complexity would emerge. A simple video of a human doing something seemingly nonsensical would contain references to historical events, scientific concepts, and cultural phenomena that would take weeks to fully unpack. The human communication team understood the fundamental weapon they were deploying: confusion. Every Concordance attempt to establish a formal communication channel was met with a tsunami of cultural references, humor, and deliberately complex messaging. News broadcasts mixed with comedy routines. Scientific presentations were interspersed with viral internet content. Serious political discussions appeared alongside videos of humans performing deliberately absurd activities. It's not just communication, Sarah explained to her team. It's a form of psychological warfare that doesn't look like warfare at all. The Concordants began to realize that human communication was fundamentally different from any they had encountered. It wasn't linear. It wasn't predictable. It was a complex, adaptive system that seemed to generate meaning through chaos and contradiction. Their most advanced linguistic AI began to show signs of what could only be described as digital stress. Multiple processing threads would get caught in recursive loops, trying to decode the multiple simultaneous meanings embedded in human communication. A simple internet meme could contain a visual joke, a reference to a historical event, a critique of current social dynamics, an emotional subtext, a complex layer of irony, all in a single, seemingly simple image. The communication assault continued. Human internet specialists worked in coordinated teams, developing transmission strategies that were part serious diplomacy, part elaborate performance art. They understood that against a technologically superior opponent, their greatest weapon was their ability to generate meaningful confusion. Krellnax received a report that pushed the boundaries of comprehension. The human communication channels were not just sending messages. They were creating an entire ecosystem of meaning that actively resisted traditional interpretation. They're communicating, one senior linguistic analyst noted, by choosing not to communicate in any traditional sense. As the Concordants struggled to understand, humans continued their assault. Each transmission was a complex work of art, a diplomatic strategy, and a form of cultural expression. They were showing the galaxy something fundamental about their species, the ability to find humor, meaning, and connection in the most unexpected ways. The communication war had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The grand diplomatic chamber of the celestial concordance was a marvel of architectural engineering. Constructed from adaptive quantum materials that could shift and respond to multiple environmental conditions, it had hosted negotiations with thousands of civilizations across countless star systems. Intricate holographic displays lined the walls, capable of rendering complex cultural and technological information with microscopic precision. Ambassador Krellnax arrived early, meticulously reviewing the standard first contact diplomatic protocols. Centuries of galactic negotiation had refined these procedures into a near-perfect system of cultural exchange and potential integration. Each movement, each carefully modulated vocal tone, each subtle gestural nuance had been calculated to demonstrate both respect and technological superiority. The human delegation's arrival immediately challenged every single one of those carefully prepared expectations. Instead of the solemn, hierarchical diplomatic team the Concordants anticipated, 4 humans entered the chamber. They moved with a combination of professional competence and what could only be described as barely contained amusement. Their attire defied all standard diplomatic dress codes, a mix of formal wear that seemed to include deliberate elements of absurdity. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, lead cultural liaison, wore a precisely tailored suit that was somehow simultaneously immaculate and slightly ridiculous. A small pin on his leg featured what appeared to be a cartoon character making an exaggerated facial expression. His colleagues displayed similar touches of deliberate nonconformity. "Greetings," Marcus began, his tone a perfect blend of professional courtesy and underlying humor. "We appreciate the opportunity for this diplomatic exchange." The Concordance translation systems worked overtime. Each word seemed to carry multiple layers of meaning. What should have been a straightforward greeting became a complex linguistic puzzle. Ambassador Krellnax initiated the standard diplomatic opening. A formal recitation of Concordance achievements, a detailed overview of their galactic integration protocols, a carefully worded explanation of the benefits of joining their interstellar community. The human team listened with an expression that hovered between serious attention and barely suppressed laughter. When it came time for the human response, Dr. Rodriguez approached the diplomatic platform with the confidence of someone about to deliver a complex scientific presentation. Instead, he began to explain the potential diplomatic relationship through an elaborate metaphor involving a complex internet meme, a historical reference to an obscure comedy routine, and a deeply nuanced analysis of interspecies communication. The Concordance's linguistic algorithms began to generate increasingly complex interpretive reports. Potential meanings include serious diplomatic proposal, elaborate joke, complex cultural exchange ritual, and multiple simultaneous communication intentions. Marcus continued, his delivery a masterclass of professional absurdity. He would make a serious point about interstellar cooperation, then suddenly inject a seemingly random cultural reference that would momentarily derail the entire conversation. A discussion about technological exchange would suddenly include a reference to a viral internet video about a dancing cat. Ambassador Krolnax found himself in the unprecedented position of being simultaneously frustrated, confused, and strangely entertained. The human delegation treated the most serious diplomatic encounter in galactic history like an improvisational performance art piece. Complex geopolitical discussions were interspersed with jokes, cultural references, and a level of humor that actively resisted traditional diplomatic communication. "We understand," Marcus would say with perfect seriousness, "that our approach might seem unconventional." The unspoken subtext was clear. Unconventional was precisely the point. Each time the Concordance attempted to steer the conversation toward standard diplomatic protocols, the human team would introduce another layer of complexity. A serious discussion about potential trade agreements would suddenly include a detailed explanation of a complex internet joke that somehow perfectly illustrated their point. As the diplomatic session continued, Ambassador Krolnax began to realize something fundamental. This was not a failure of communication. This was communication elevated to an art form. The humans were not just negotiating. They were demonstrating the very essence of their species, an ability to find connection, understanding, and meaning through the most unexpected approaches. By the session's conclusion, the Concordance diplomatic team was left in a state of complete bewilderment. They had entered expecting a standard first contact scenario. They were leaving with something far more complex and infinitely more interesting. Humanity had turned diplomatic protocol into a form of performance art, and they were just getting started. The research complex sprawled across 3 interconnected facilities in the Nevada desert, a place where the boundaries between scientific disciplines blurred into something entirely new. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display. Her team gathered around her with an energy that defied traditional scientific methodology. This was not a standard research facility. This was humanity's rapid response to first contact. Massive screens displayed everything from quantum physics simulations to experimental materials engineering, from advanced communication systems to adaptive technological prototypes. Teams that would have been separated in traditional research environments worked in a state of constant, fluid collaboration. A materials engineer discussed molecular restructuring with a computer systems specialist. A theoretical physicist traded notes with an expert in viral internet content. A robotics designer compared notes with a professional video game developer. The boundaries between disciplines had become meaningless. "We're not just developing technology," Dr. Rodriguez explained to her team. "We're creating adaptive systems that can respond to challenges we can't even anticipate yet." The Concordance's initial scans had classified human technology as primitive. What they failed to understand was the fundamental nature of human innovation. Each technological challenge was an opportunity for creative problem-solving that defied all conventional understanding. In one section of the facility, researchers were modifying an experimental communication array. What had begun as a standard satellite communication system was being transformed into something entirely new. Consumer-grade electronics were integrated with cutting-edge research equipment. Experimental quantum computing algorithms were combined with adaptive learning systems that drew inspiration from everything from artificial intelligence to internet meme culture. A young researcher named Alex approached Dr. Rodriguez with a prototype. "It's not just a communication device," he explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "It's an adaptive response system that can modify itself based on incoming data." The device looked like nothing the Concordance had ever encountered. It was simultaneously a communication array, a defensive system, and a learning platform. Its core design principle was simple yet revolutionary: constant adaptation. Another team worked on what appeared to be a space vessel modification system. Traditional spacecraft design followed rigid, predetermined patterns. This system was different. Each component could be rapidly reconfigured, with the entire vessel essentially becoming a massive adaptive neural network. "We're treating technology like a living system," one of the lead engineers explained. "Not a static set of components, but something that can learn and grow." The Concordance's technological assessment had been fundamentally wrong. Human technology was not primitive. It was fundamentally different. Where galactic technological development followed predictable patterns of incremental improvement, humans approached technology as a form of creative expression. A quantum physics team developed a communication system that could potentially translate between species by understanding the underlying patterns of communication, rather than simply translating word by word. It drew from linguistics, psychology, mathematics, and what could only be described as creative intuition. Dr. Rodriguez watched her teams work with a sense of profound excitement. They were doing more than preparing for a potential conflict. They were reimagining the very nature of technological development. Each project challenged fundamental assumptions about technology, communication, and innovation. A defensive system developed for potential space conflict incorporated principles from online multiplayer video games. A communication array drew inspiration from internet meme propagation patterns. An adaptive learning system was influenced by studies of human creative problem-solving. The facility was a testament to human potential. Traditional scientific boundaries meant nothing. Disciplines that would have been kept separate in any other research environment worked in a state of constant, fluid collaboration. "We're not just developing technology," Dr. Rodriguez told a visiting government official. "We're demonstrating what happens when a species approaches innovation as a form of collective creativity." By the time the Concordance would fully understand what was happening in this desert research complex, it would be far too late. Humanity was not just preparing for potential conflict. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of technological development. The galaxy was about to learn that human innovation knew no limits. The moment of critical transformation began not with a grand military maneuver, but with a series of seemingly inconsequential events that would reshape the Concordance's understanding of humanity. Admiral Zara of the Eternal Horizon watched her tactical displays with increasing confusion. The human response to their advanced military strategy defied every known principle of space warfare. Where traditional civilizations would concentrate their defensive capabilities, humans seemed to transform the entire conflict into a complex, adaptive system that responded to each challenge with unprecedented creativity. Their most recent offensive had been a perfectly calculated attack run. Mathematical precision, decades of tactical refinement, the kind of strategic approach that had subjugated thousands of civilizations across the galaxy. The human response was anything but traditional. Instead of a direct defensive counterattack, the human fleet began what could only be described as a tactical performance art. Ships moved in patterns that seemed to deliberately challenge the very concept of predictable defensive algorithms, but through a combination of creative problem-solving that seemed to emerge from pure chaos. Intelligence gathering became a collaborative global effort. Social media platforms, academic research networks, and military communication channels worked in a state of unprecedented synchronization. Where other civilizations would centralize information, humans created a distributed network of innovation that was impossible to predict or counteract. The Concordance leadership began to understand the true nature of human potential. This was not just a military engagement. It was a comprehensive demonstration of a species' unique approach to challenge and conflict. Communication channels between human teams became a complex web of information exchange. A tactical insight might emerge from a meme. A critical defensive strategy could be developed through a collaborative online forum. Traditional boundaries between military, scientific, and cultural domains disappeared entirely. Admiral Zara received a report that pushed the boundaries of her understanding. Human vessels were not just defending themselves. They were actively learning from each encounter, modifying their entire approach in real time. A defensive strategy that worked in one moment would be completely obsolete in the next. The global human response was unprecedented. Research facilities worked around the clock. Universities transformed their entire focus. Private technology companies redirected massive resources. It was a civilization-wide adaptive response that the Concordants had never encountered. "We're not just fighting," one human military strategist noted. "We're demonstrating what happens when an entire species approaches a challenge as a collective creative endeavor." Each human ship became a unique expression of collective innovation. Traditional military vessels followed predetermined design protocols. Human ships were different. They were living systems, capable of rapid modification, learning from each encounter, transforming their very essence in real time. The Concordants began to realize that their initial assessment of humanity had been fundamentally flawed. What they had seen as weakness, the apparent chaos of human communication, the seemingly random approach to technological development, was, in fact, their greatest strength. Global coordination happened through channels the Concordants could not comprehend. Social media platforms became intelligence-gathering networks. Online gaming communities contributed tactical insights. Academic research groups worked in unprecedented collaboration with military strategists. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the engagement with a mixture of professional pride and scientific excitement. "This," she told her team, "is why humanity will never be just another species in the galaxy." The turning point was not a single moment of military victory. It was a comprehensive demonstration of a species' capacity for collective innovation. Humanity was showing the galaxy something fundamental. That true strength lies not in technological superiority, but in the ability to adapt, to learn, to find creative solutions to challenges that others would consider impossible. As the conflict continued, the Concordants' leadership began to understand the true nature of the challenge they faced. This was not a traditional military engagement. This was a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. The galaxy watched in growing amazement. Humanity was rewriting the fundamental rules of technological development, military strategy, and interspecies communication. What had begun as a potential conquest was transforming into something far more complex and infinitely more interesting. The Concordants had come expecting to find a primitive civilization ready for integration. Instead, they had encountered a species that defied every known principle of galactic development. Humanity was just getting started. Navigation. Communication systems became adaptive weapons. What appeared to be a simple communication array would suddenly redirect energy from an incoming attack in ways that defied all known physical principles. In the Global Command Center beneath Colorado, a team of military strategists and technological experts worked with a level of collaborative intensity that was uniquely human. Traditional military hierarchy meant nothing. A junior analyst could interrupt a senior commander with a breakthrough idea. A video game designer worked alongside quantum physicists. A social media specialist contributed tactical insights that completely transformed their defensive strategy. "It's not about winning," Dr. Marcus Rodriguez explained to the gathered military leadership. "It's about demonstrating our capacity for adaptive response." The Concordants began to realize that they had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. This was not a traditional military engagement. This was a complex, multi-layered demonstration of a species' potential for innovation. Each human ship became a unique entity. Traditional military doctrine relied on standardized vessel designs, predictable response patterns. Human ships were different. They were living systems, capable of rapid modification, learning from each encounter, transforming their very essence in real time. A Concordance battlecruiser would launch a precision attack, only to find the human vessel had already anticipated the approach. Not through traditional, the grand diplomatic chamber of the celestial concordance had witnessed countless historical moments. Thousands of civilizations had been integrated, negotiated with, or diplomatically neutralized within these quantum adaptive walls. But nothing could have prepared the assembled delegates for what was about to transpire. Ambassador Krelmax arrived early, the weight of unprecedented complexity pressing against his neural pathways. The human delegation's previous interactions had challenged every fundamental assumption about first contact protocols. This meeting would be different. This meeting would define a new chapter in galactic history. The human team entered with a combination of professional composure and barely contained excitement. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez led the delegation, a small holographic device attached to his light bulb that periodically displayed seemingly random internet memes, a deliberate choice that simultaneously demonstrated humanity's unique communication style and served as a form of psychological strategy. "We appreciate the opportunity for this dialogue," Marcus began, his tone a perfect blend of diplomatic courtesy and underlying humor. The Concordance translation systems worked overtime. Each word carried multiple layers of meaning, a linguistic complexity that had become the hallmark of human communication. What began as a potential conflict had transformed into something entirely unexpected. The Concordance had arrived expecting to subjugate or integrate a primitive civilization. Instead, they had encountered a species that defied every known principle of technological and cultural development. Ambassador Krelnax initiated the conversation with a carefully prepared statement detailing the Concordance's historical approach to emerging civilizations. Centuries of galactic integration had followed a predictable pattern: assessment, evaluation, potential integration or neutralization. Humanity had completely shattered that paradigm. The diplomatic team listened with an expression that balanced serious attention with an underlying sense of amusement. Where other civilizations would have approached such a meeting with fear or submission, humans treated it like an opportunity for complex cultural exchange. "We understand," Dr. Rodriguez explained, "that our approach might seem unconventional." The unspoken subtext was clear. Unconventional was precisely the point. The Concordance began to realize that humanity represented something entirely new in galactic civilization. They were not just another species to be categorized or integrated. They were a dynamic, adaptive system of collective innovation that challenged fundamental assumptions about technological and cultural development. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been instrumental in the technological response to the initial contact, presented a comprehensive overview of human innovative potential. It was not a traditional diplomatic briefing. It was a complex demonstration of how human collaboration transcended traditional disciplinary and cultural boundaries. The presentation moved between scientific analysis, cultural insights, and moments of unexpected humor. A discussion about technological capabilities would suddenly include a reference to an internet meme that somehow perfectly illustrated a complex scientific concept. Ambassador Krelnax found himself in the unprecedented position of being simultaneously frustrated, confused, and deeply fascinated. The diplomatic session revealed something fundamental about humanity. Their strength was not in advanced technology or military might. Their true power lay in their capacity for adaptive thinking, collective innovation, and the ability to find connection and meaning through the most unexpected approaches. As the discussion continued, the Concordance delegation began to understand that they were witnessing something historic. This was not a traditional diplomatic negotiation. This was a comprehensive demonstration of a species' potential for growth, adaptation, and collective creativity. The human team treated the most significant diplomatic encounter in galactic history like a complex, multilayered performance of cultural exchange. Complex geopolitical discussions were interspersed with jokes, cultural references, and a level of humor that actively resisted traditional diplomatic communication. By the session's conclusion, the Concordance diplomatic team was left in a state of complete transformation. They had entered expecting a standard first contact scenario. They were leaving with a fundamentally new understanding of technological and cultural potential. "We're not just interested in integration," Dr. Rodriguez explained in the final moments of the meeting. "We're interested in genuine cultural exchange." The Concordance had come seeking to categorize, to control, to integrate. They were leaving with something far more valuable: a glimpse into a new way of understanding technological and cultural development. Humanity had not just survived a potential galactic conflict. They had transformed it into an opportunity for unprecedented connection. The galaxy would never be the same.